Ascent Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents Leading Virtual Teams by Harvard Business Review. Narrated by James Edward Thomas. Publisher's note: this audiobook has bonus material. Please contact whomever you purchased this audiobook from to request the material.
What is a virtual team? How do you get your people to work together when you can't even get them in the same city? How do you get past technology glitches to have a productive conversation? Can you help your staff trust teammates that they've never laid eyes on? How do you maintain accountability with someone in a different time zone who's going to bed just as you're getting up? How do you replicate the small things that knit teams together? Following the same sports teams, saying Gesundheit when a sneezing fit erupts, sharing a look over a colleague's absent-minded humming, even holding elevator doors for each other. These are just a few of the challenges you face when you manage a team of remote workers. You're a leader of a virtual team if you coordinate work around a shared goal with team members who don't share a base of operations. You may be a sales director, managing people who perform the same tasks in different locations, or perhaps you run a project with a team whose day-to-day responsibilities are as unique as their physical posts. Maybe you manage a handful of off-site employees who work with a core group at the home office. Even if you have one team member working remotely, you're managing a virtual team. And while leading any team involves a mix of people management, technical oversight, and project administration, virtual leaders must perform these functions with blunt communication tools and without face-to-face accountability. Whether you're a veteran team leader or new to the role, coordinating the work of multiple people in multiple places will scramble your instincts and stretch your skills. But successful leaders make the most of these challenges by orchestrating technologies that meet their group's particular needs and establishing strong norms for how all team members will work together in this virtual space. Why use virtual teams? The ubiquity of virtual teams tends to blind us to their usefulness. What are the benefits of this arrangement? Virtual teams maximize limited resources. By hiring for the short term someone who happens to live in another part of the world, you can ramp up and maintain a steady pace of production for your busy season. Virtual teams help you save on the overhead costs of owning and maintaining a physical plant by partnering with a manufacturer. You can assemble the smarts, staff, and supplies you need to fit your budget and schedule. They cast a wide net for expertise. Virtual teams allow you to look beyond the resources right in front of you and tap into your organization's global capacities. You might find a technician with a rare skill set. For example, a translator fluent in an uncommon language, or consult a niche expert who can't make an in-person meeting. With virtual teams, you can put boots on the ground to host a client event or supervise a product rollout in a distant place where you do business. They streamline collaboration. Integrating communication technologies allows the team to interact in whatever way makes the most sense for the individual and the task. When you're face-to-face with colleagues every day, you don't always think about the most appropriate way to work together. You schedule an hour-long meeting to launch a project because that's what you've always done. But when your team is dispersed, you're forced to consider the best way for doing what you need to accomplish. If brainstorming sessions in conference calls tend to unravel into people talking over one another, you can initiate a discussion thread on chat, and everyone gets a chance to weigh in. And if a complex discussion is bogging down over email, you can set up a video call. What are the key challenges? Every team leader struggles to manage personalities while keeping technical work on track. But the virtual environment magnifies the most difficult aspects of running a team. So what challenges do you need to overcome in managing a virtual team to reap the benefits? Team composition. Some people simply don't thrive in a virtual work environment. If you've inherited an existing team, then you may have some ill-adapted members, people who go MIA when they miss a deadline, or who never figure out how to politely jump in on a conference call. Even if you've hand-picked your direct reports, you may not know whether someone's a good fit until that person is in the thick of an assignment. Talking to everyone ahead of time about how they work, not just what they do, will help you pick the right people and engineer the group norms that will help them succeed. Isolation. Working remotely can alienate team members from your mission and their peers. Without FaceTime, colleagues struggle to develop trust, and everyone, you too, is more vulnerable to loneliness and loss of motivation. A good virtual team leader finds opportunities for team building in every aspect of the work, making people feel included and that they're working together toward a shared goal. Technology. Picking the right technology is about removing barriers to the work. Your technology choices will govern how your team communicates and how you share, store, and iterate content. So if your tools are unreliable or otherwise difficult to use, or just don't meet the group's needs, you'll waste time, slow down work, demotivate your team, create confusion and redundancy, and generally make all of you look unprofessional. Gathering input from your partners and team members will help you get your team up and running and working smoothly with fewer interruptions. Communication. Without the physical cues that enrich in-person interactions, virtual teams need clear communication norms, which are hard to establish across so many technologies: phone, email, video, chat, and the like. Technology fractures our shared behavioral patterns. What works in person doesn't work on the phone, and vice versa. And colleagues can go days or even weeks without speaking to each other. Meanwhile, when there are no impromptu in-person updates, the sheer volume of messages you receive can be overwhelming. In general, face-to-face communication is always best, followed by video and phone, which are better at capturing emotional information than a written format. But no matter which tool you're using, you'll save time and build goodwill by helping your people find the right channels and develop a shared etiquette for using them. This book will walk you through solutions to each of these challenges so that you can manage your remote team more effectively. The following pages offer step-by-step advice for everything from putting together your team and your technology to coordinating work and building trust through screens, to mastering communication across multiple technology platforms. And you'll find tips for countering some of the most common problems you're likely to face, such as delivering constructive feedback over the phone. How you use all these ideas depends on the people you're leading and the work they need to do. So let's start with the fundamentals, making sure you've got the right people on your virtual team. Get the right people on the team. Working on a virtual team is not for everyone. While some people embrace the flexibility and independence, others will flounder amid the isolation and technological challenges. Through personal circumstances, management directives, or a simple lack of information, many people who are not well suited to remote work end up doing it. You may or may not be able to move these people off your team. You might have the luxury of building a team from scratch, or you might be constrained by the personnel decisions you've inherited by taking over an existing team. But whatever the circumstances, you'll want to figure out how to exert the most control over who's in your group within the boundaries you've been given. What's important on a virtual team? All teams need a blend of skills and group rapport, but the technical and personal challenges of remote work demand a special set of traits. Communication. Strong communication skills are a must. Good virtual team members know how to be precise and concise in multiple media, and they err on the side of over-communication. These skills matter most in core team members, while satellite collaborators and people in niche roles have a lower bar to clear. Collaboration style. Virtual teamwork requires self-discipline and self-motivation, since team members must stay on schedule and ask for help when necessary. Remote work is not ideal for people who need a lot of supervision. Temperament. Building productive relationships without the benefit of face-to-face contact requires high emotional intelligence. Look for people who will be generous negotiating conflict in a low-information environment and resilient working alone under pressure. If your team is global, place a premium on cultural sensitivity. Technology. You want people who are open-minded to new technology and competent in the tools you must use. Evaluate what the team members can teach each other, as well as what they have to learn and what they can learn. Size. When it comes to the number of folks on your team, aim low. Research shows that smaller teams are more effective and more motivated, and that virtual teams become particularly unwieldy with more than 10 members. As the numbers rise, communications become too complicated, and there are diminishing opportunities to build personal relationships on a team that's distributed across the globe. Tweak an existing team. You've been given the reins to a team that someone else assembled. Maybe your people have been working together for years under different leadership and have already developed processes for bridging the distance between them. Or perhaps they're as new to each other as they are to you. Either way, before you dive into the work, you'll want to spend time thinking about how your team's members work together. Evaluate the team members' skills and personal qualities. Paying special attention to the ideal attributes identified earlier, debrief the last leader or consult someone else who knows the team well, a senior member, a supervisor, perhaps even a customer. Track down any written documentation of the team's work, such as an after-action review. Interview team members directly. See the sidebar Team Survey. Look for patterns. Which elements of the team are working really well? Where are the obvious pain points? Identify gaps and make a plan to fill them. Since you can't directly observe people in action, use the team survey and any other available documentation to make your best assessment. Does anyone require outside training? Can one team member coach another? Do any team roles need to be redefined or reassigned? If the issue isn't too sensitive, or if you have good relationships with the rest of the team, run parts of your plan past the team members in one-on-one meetings or by email. Team Survey. Choose the questions that are most relevant to your work and distribute them via email or an online survey tool such as SurveyMonkey with a due date. Ask for brief bullet point answers. General. What is your role on this team? What skills are most important to your role? Which skills are critical to your success as a virtual collaborator? How is your role affected by working remotely? What are the benefits and challenges? What do you wish you were better at doing? Which of your talents need to be developed further? What are the overall strengths and weaknesses of the team right now, especially with respect to virtual collaboration? In an ideal world, how would you adjust your role to add value to the team? Which virtual aspects of your role would you change? Ideally, to make your job easier or better, how would you change the way the team works? Which virtual aspects of your collaboration would you change? Communication. Which communication tools do you use and how do you use them? Which tools do you feel most comfortable with? What's not working out? How easy do you find it to communicate your personal style to your colleagues with the tools available to you? How easy do you find it to get a sense of the personal style of your colleagues? What does it look like when an interaction goes well for you? Have you noticed any patterns when interactions go badly? How are you coping with time zone differences, language or cultural barriers, or different technology platforms? Collaboration style. Which tasks or parts of virtual collaboration are you best at? What do you most like to do on the team? What do you most dislike doing? What's working for you about how this team works together? What's still hard? Overall, would you say you like working remotely? Temperament. With whom on the team do you work most closely? How would you describe those relationships, and how has the social distance of remote work affected them? Do you have a sense of the temperaments of your colleagues? How did that develop, and what do you think you could do to develop that knowledge further? In general, what sorts of people bring out the best in you? The worst. What qualities are most important for you in a virtual collaborator? Think about a conflict you've had on this team. How did you handle it? How did the virtual nature of the team play into the way things unfolded? Technology. Which internet provider do you use, and what results do you get from an internet speed test? What technology do you use to do your work? How would you rate your comfort level with each item or tool you listed? Which tools aren't working for you right now? Why? If you want more detailed input from the team, use the templates in the sidebars Solicit Group Feedback and Ratings Exercise, both near the end of the book, to conduct a holistic pre-evaluation. Clearly communicate your plans to the individuals involved, and when relevant, to the whole team. If this discussion happens on a phone call or video chat, document an explanation of the change and make it available somewhere that's accessible to everyone on the team as a reference going forward. Confirm your team. Whether you reassign, cut, or add personnel, make sure everyone on the team has roles that are clearly defined and mutually understood. Share a document with a final description of everyone's roles, and if the document incorporates significant changes, schedule a meeting to review it. Encourage people to clarify any uncertainty over their roles by bringing questions to you and any other relevant team members. Assemble a new team. Sometimes you're tapped to develop a product, improve a process, or solve a problem, and you're able to cherry-pick folks to do the work. Let's look at how to assemble the right virtual team. Determine the skills and personal qualities you need. Consult colleagues, supervisors, and direct reports with experience on virtual teams like yours to draw up a list. Use a modified version of the team survey to guide a phone conversation, or send it out via email or an online poll. Identify people with those skills and qualities. Use your network to look both within and outside your organization. Although team members will be working remotely, location may still matter. For example, your team may need to be in the same time zone or meet certain requirements for internet access. Recruit your virtual team. You'll approach most people directly, but consider going through a shared contact, such as a supervisor or colleague, if you're adding someone in your organization. I'd like to bring Alex on board for this project, since I know you just finished that redesign project together. Could you introduce us? For people you haven't worked with before, make this initial contact as personable as possible. A phone call instead of an email. Your people are the team's most important resource by far. But whether they succeed in their mission will depend in large part on the technologies you give them to do their work. Manage the technology. Technology makes it possible for your team to communicate, coordinate, and build successful working relationships. If you're not a technologist, it's tempting to give this work short shrift. I'm in advertising, not IT. But on a virtual team, you are IT. In fact, you're the department head. If you work for a small company, no one else is going to solve your connectivity problems or set up your file-sharing software. And you have to be prepared to help your team members do these things too. If you're part of a larger organization with more technology resources, you'll still play an important role as your people's chief advocate, lobbying IT for support and projects. Establishing the right environment at the beginning of a project will make these tasks easier later on. But it takes time, money, and resources up front. Assess needs and resources. Your first step is to figure out what your team needs, what resources are presently available to you, and the security policies and restrictions of your company. Evaluating existing resources involves looking not only at what your team members have in place on their end, but also at the tools your organization brings to the table. Technology touches every element of work on a virtual team, so work through these questions methodically and thoroughly. The sidebar Assess Your Team's Technology Needs and Resources structures this process. For each technology domain, such as creating content, list the technologies you need and the resources you have. Run through the bulleted questions to make sure you haven't skipped over any critical factors. At the end of this exercise, you'll have detailed notes for each domain. As you make your final selections, keep 3 principles in mind. First, be cautious about adopting new technology. Using familiar technology will generally save time, keep costs low, and shorten the startup time for the rest of the team. Although some options, especially cloud-based solutions, may save time and money even if they're new to the team. Second, ensure compatibility where it matters. For example, team members working on a written report need compatible word processing software, but don't necessarily have to use the same email service. And third, don't be afraid to make the conservative choice. Simplicity, reliability, and accessibility are often more important than complex functionality. Assess your team's technology needs and resources. Communicating. What will be your primary means of communication? How will you conduct meetings, by phone, video? What level of Internet access will your team members need for communication? What capacities will you need on a team site, for example, a wiki page or documentation for ramping up a new hire? Will the team members need to share the same email domain, such as @globalcorp.com? What hardware, such as headsets or webcams, will the team members need for communication? What capacities do the team members need to have on their phones? Do your people need to be on the same mobile operating system, Android versus iOS? Will the team members be required to have a landline? How secure will the various channels need to be? Creating content. Which file types will you use? What software compatibility will you require? Will you need scanning technology? Will you need access to any databases? What quality of Internet access will your team members need for content creation? Which security features will the team need? Sharing and storing content. How much storage capacity will you need? The back of the envelope math for storage is as follows. Take the typical file size, multiply it by the number of documents you'll need to hang on to, and the result is your storage requirements. Should the capacity be scalable? Will you store content on hard drives, company servers, or in the cloud, such as Dropbox or Google Drive? Will you synchronize content, updating files automatically across the whole team? Will you need versioned documents, that is, the ability to track who made changes? Will you need read-only files? Will you need different access levels and permissions for files? Will you need compression programs? What quality of Internet access will your team members need for content sharing and storage? What are your group's security concerns, risks, and rules? Scheduling. Will you need to share or synchronize calendars? Will you need project management or issue tracking software, such as Asana, Smartsheet, SharePoint, Jira, Microsoft Project, or Basecamp? What quality of Internet access will your team members need for scheduling? Costs. What is your budget for all your technology, for its purchase, installation, storage, and maintenance? How will you distribute that money across the different technology domains? What capital expenses do you have to plan for versus operational expenses? What costs will the organization bear, and what will individual team members pay for? Seek input. Ultimately, you want technology that capitalizes on what your team already knows how to use. The best way to do this is to talk to your team members directly about their personal needs and resources. You'll get useful technical insights and demonstrate respect and concern for their experiences. So, as you assess your team's technology needs and resources, seek feedback from your team members or other key players who will be involved in your work. The team survey will give you some initial information to get started with, but follow up individually with your people to get a better picture. Use their answers from the technology section of the survey and listen for enthusiasm, confidence, fear, or skepticism. Which of the tools you're considering have they used before? What were their experiences? How open are they to learning something new? How long might it take to get them up to speed? What are they more or less flexible about? Technology facilitates work not only within a team but also outside it. Make a list of individuals and organizations your team will interact with and the technology requirements for each relationship. Reaching out to partners is a smart choice for a few reasons. You'll find out what technology your partners are already using, so you can pick a compatible tool. What tool, service, platform do you use for this? You want their advice about a specific selection. Have you used tools A, B, or C in the past? What was your experience? Do you have a recommendation? You want to inform your partners about a selection you've made that's relevant to them. We've decided to go with X for file sharing. What's your capacity for this tool right now? Do you need any resources or support from us to set things up? Do you need any training? Set up a team site. Whatever other technologies you choose, your team needs a shared digital workspace. It can take many forms: a full-blown website, a file storage service, such as a folder on Google Drive or Dropbox, a messaging and archival system, such as Slack or HipChat, a version tracking system, such as GitHub, or a combination of tools. But it must cover a few basic functions. Team members need to be able to upload and download shared files as identifiable individual users on the system, not a shared account with an unsafe password. Post key team documents, schedules, and updates. Share contact information, and participate in some sort of online discussion threads. The shared digital workspace isn't just a repository for text that no one wants to read. It should be a vital space where important work gets done. Enforce this boundary by redirecting technical digressions during meetings to the site, and by relocating task-related conversations from email and chat whenever possible. When you need input from the team, post your request to the discussion board. If you use it, other people will have to follow suit, and the more integral the site becomes to your collaboration, the more everyone will use it without prodding. Establish rules for technology use.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?